The kitchen knife was still in Agnes Washington's hand when Zara heard the knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. Deliberate. The kind of knock that didn't ask permission. It announced arrival. Zara froze at the sink, her hands submerged in greasy dishwater that hadn't been warm in 20 minutes because Agnes refused to pay the gas bill. Her left eye was swollen and completely shut from this morning's beating. Her ribs screamed with every breath because she'd overcooked the rice yesterday and underpaid the price in bruises. 22 years old. Born and raised in the suffocating hell of 7 Mile Road, Detroit, Michigan. Beaten daily by the woman who called herself Mama, but had never once looked at Zara with anything resembling love. Before we go any further into Zara's story, I need to pause for just a moment. If you've ever felt trapped, if you've ever wondered if anyone would come for you, if you've ever survived something that should have broken you, this story is for you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if Zara's struggle touches something in your heart, hit that subscribe button. Not because I'm asking, but because stories like this need to be heard. Because someone watching right now needs to know they're not alone. Let's build a community of survivors right here. Now let's get back to Zara, because what happens next will change everything. The knife in Agnes's hand wasn't for cooking. It was a warning. A reminder that dinner better be perfect tonight, or the blade might slip while she was cutting vegetables, near Zara's skin again. Get the door, Agnes barked, not looking up from her spot at the table where she was counting pill bottles like a dragon counting gold. Oxycodone. Xanax. Whatever her dealer had traded for this month's welfare check. Zara dried her hands on a dish towel that used to be white, but was now the color of old coffee stains. She walked to the door, each step careful because the floorboards creaked and Agnes hated noise and Agnes's hatred always translated into violence. She opened the door. The man standing on the rotting porch didn't belong in this neighborhood. He wore a burgundy suit that probably cost more than every car on this entire block combined. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine despite the slush and filth of Detroit winter streets. His hair was perfectly styled, dark and swept back like he'd just walked out of a magazine spread about men who owned countries instead of cars. But it was his eyes that made Zara's breath catch. Fox sharp. Gray like storm clouds. The kind of eyes that could see straight through your skin into the parts of yourself you kept hidden even from God. A scar cut through his left cheekbone. Jagged, deliberate, the kind you got from a knife fight you won. And peeking just above his collar was the edge of a tattoo. Dark ink. Maybe wings. Maybe flames. Something that screamed danger in a language Zara didn't need a translator to understand. Is Agnes Washington home? His voice was smooth, controlled, like a blade wrapped in silk. Before Zara could answer, Agnes appeared behind her, shoving her roughly aside. The woman's bloodshot eyes went wide, then calculating, then greedy in the space of 2 seconds. Who's asking? Agnes's voice shifted. The screaming drunk disappeared, replaced by the fake sweet tone she used with social workers and landlords. The man didn't smile. My name is Choi Min-jun, may I come in? He didn't wait for permission. He stepped inside like he owned the place, his expensive shoes crossing the threshold into the filth of their living room. The stained carpet, the furniture held together with duct tape, the smell of cigarette smoke and desperation so thick you could taste it. Zara backed against the wall, trying to disappear. Men who looked like this didn't show up in neighborhoods like 7 Mile unless someone owed money or was about to die. Sometimes both. Min-jun walked straight to the kitchen table. He pulled out a chair, sat down with the casual confidence of a king claiming a throne, and placed a leather briefcase on the scarred wood. Click, click. The latches opened like gunshots. Inside were stacks of $100 bills. Crisp, clean. More money than Zara had ever seen in her entire life. Agnes's hands started shaking. Not from withdrawal. From want. $50,000, Min-jun said calmly, like he was discussing the weather instead of a sum that could change Agnes's entire miserable existence. Cash. Untraceable. Yours right now. Zara felt her stomach drop. She knew what this was. She'd seen enough crime documentaries, heard enough horror stories whispered between girls in the neighborhood. Rich foreign men didn't show up with briefcases full of cash, unless they were buying something. Or someone. What do you want? Agnes whispered, but her eyes never left the money. Min-jun leaned back in the chair. His gaze shifted to Zara, pinning her against the wall like a butterfly on a board. He studied her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. Not the slimy assessment of Agnes's gentleman friends who paid for private time, but something different. Something that looked almost like recognition. Her, he said simply. The word hung in the air like smoke. Agnes didn't even hesitate. Deal. Zara's knees buckled. She grabbed the wall for support. Her vision tunneling, her ears ringing. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real. Agnes had done terrible things. Beaten her, burned her, starved her, locked her in closets for days. But selling her? To a stranger? Mama. Zara's voice came out broken, childlike. The same voice she'd used at 6 years old begging Agnes not to hit her again. Please mama, I'll be good. Agnes didn't even look at her. Go pack your things. I don't. Zara's throat closed. I don't have things. It was true. The clothes on her back were from Goodwill. The shoes on her feet had holes in the soles. She slept on a bare mattress in a room with no door, because Agnes had ripped it off the hinges during a rage 3 years ago. Everything Zara owned could fit in a grocery bag with room left over for the nothing she was worth. Then just go stand by the door, Agnes snapped, already reaching for the money. And shut your mouth before I shut it for you. Minjun's hand moved so fast Zara almost missed it. 1 second Agnes's fingers were touching the first stack of bills. The next second Minjun's hand was clamped around her wrist like an iron shackle. Count it first, he said softly. Make sure it's all there. I'd hate for there to be any misunderstandings later. The threat in his voice was crystal clear. Agnes heard it too. She swallowed hard, nodded, and started counting with shaking hands. While Agnes was distracted, Minjun stood. He walked over to where Zara was pressed against the wall, trying to make herself small, trying to vanish. He stopped 2 feet away, close enough to touch, far enough to give her space. What's your name? He asked quietly. Zara, she whispered. Zara Washington. Something flickered across his face. Pain. Grief. Recognition. Like her name had physically hurt him. He reached slowly into his jacket. Zara flinched violently, throwing her arms up to protect her face, waiting for the blow that always came when men reached for things in this house. But no blow came. When she lowered her arms, he was holding a photograph. Old. Worn at the edges from too much handling. He held it out to her. Do you know this woman? Zara looked at the photo with her one good eye. It showed a Korean woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, holding a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. The woman looked happy. The baby looked loved. Everything about the image was soft and gentle and completely foreign to Zara's experience of the world. But there was something familiar about the woman's face. Something that tugged at memories so old they felt like dreams from someone else's life. She'd had a photograph once, when she was little, maybe 5 or 6. A picture of a pretty woman who used to sing to her in words Zara didn't understand. A woman who smelled like jasmine and held her close on cold nights. But Agnes had found the photo when Zara was 9, burned it in front of her face, said it was punishment for asking questions about her real mama. Said Zara needed to stop living in fantasy worlds and accept that this, the beatings, the hunger, the fear, was her real life and always would be. No, Zara lied, because the truth felt too big and too dangerous for this moment. I don't know her. Minjunis Jotaitsent. He put the photo back in his jacket, right over his heart, like it was the most precious thing he owned. Her name was Choi Ji-hwa, he said, his voice rough with emotion he was trying to contain. She was 28 years old when someone put 2 bullets in her head and left her body in an alley on Livernois Avenue, 3 blocks from this house. 16 years ago. Zara's world tilted sideways. She grabbed the wall, her legs threatening to give out completely. 16 years ago. She would have been 6. The same age she was when the nice woman who sang to her disappeared and Agnes started using fists instead of words. Why? Zara's voice cracked. Why are you telling me this? Minjun looked at her with those devastating eyes, and for the first time since he'd walked through the door, she saw emotion crack through his controlled exterior. Anguish. Rage. Desperation. Because Jiwa was my wife, he said. And the baby in that photograph is my daughter. The daughter who was stolen from me 16 years ago. The daughter I've been searching for every single day since then. The daughter whose face I see every time I close my eyes. He took 1 step closer. Zara couldn't move, couldn't breathe. couldn't do anything but stare as he reached out with a hand that could probably crush her skull and gently, so gently, touched the cigarette burn on her neck that Agnes had given her 3 days ago for dropping a glass. "The daughter," he whispered, "who's standing right in front of me." The kitchen knife clattered to the floor. Agnes had stopped counting the money. She was staring at Minjun with an expression Zara had never seen before on her face. Fear. "You're lying," Agnes said, but her voice shook. She's not. DNA doesn't lie, Agnes," Minjun said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "Jiwa told me everything before she died. About her sister. About the deal they made. About how you promised to protect her daughter if something happened to her." He turned to look at Agnes, and the temperature in the room plummeted. "Tell me, Agnes Washington, how exactly have you been protecting your niece?" Zara's brain couldn't process the words. Niece? Jiwa's sister? That would mean Agnes wasn't her mother. That would mean the woman who'd beaten her for 22 years was her aunt. That would mean... "Get out," Agnes hissed, standing up so fast her chair fell backward. "Get out of my house right now before I call the cops." Minjun smiled. It was the most terrifying expression Zara had ever seen. "Call them," he said pleasantly. "I'd love to explain to Detroit PD why you've been cashing checks from a dead woman's estate for 16 years. Why you've been collecting survivor benefits for a child you've been torturing. Why your bank account shows regular deposits from offshore accounts linked to organized crime." He pulled out his phone. "Or I can call them for you. I have Detective Morris on speed dial. He's very interested in cold cases. Especially murders. Especially murders where the victim's sister might have known more than she told investigators." Agnes's face went sheet white. "You wouldn't. Try me." The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Finally, Agnes looked at Zara. Really looked at her. And in that moment, Zara saw something she'd never seen before in her aunt's eyes. Guilt. "Take her," Agnes whispered. "Take the money. Take her. Just go." Minjun closed the briefcase. "Keep your blood money, Agnes. I don't need to buy back what's already mine." He turned to Zara, and his expression softened into something that looked almost like tenderness. "Zara," he said gently, "you have a choice. You can stay here with her. Or you can come with me. I won't force you. I won't lie to you. My world is dangerous. The men who killed your mother are still out there. And when they find out I've found you, they'll come. But I promise you this." He placed his hand over his heart, over the photograph hidden in his jacket. "I will never let anyone hurt you again. Not her. Not them. Not anyone. You are my daughter. And I have spent 16 years searching for you. I'm not losing you again." Zara looked at Agnes. The woman who'd raised her with fists and fear. The woman who'd just agreed to sell her for $50,000 without a second's hesitation. Then she looked at Minjun. A stranger. A possible liar. A man who could be trafficking her into hell. But he knew about Jiwa. He had the photograph. He had tears in his eyes that looked real. And he'd called her his daughter. No one had ever called Zara anything that gentle in her entire life. She took a shaking breath. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll go with you." Minjun's eyes closed briefly, like he'd just heard the answer to a prayer. When he opened them, they were wet. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. He took off his suit jacket, expensive, perfectly tailored, and wrapped it around Zara's shoulders. It smelled like cedar and safety and something else she couldn't name. It was the warmest thing she'd ever worn. They walked toward the door. Zara looked back one last time. Agnes was standing in the kitchen, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the briefcase of money she'd refused. For the first time in 22 years, she looked small, defeated, almost human. "I'm sorry," Agnes whispered. Zara didn't respond. She just turned and walked out into the December cold with the man who claimed to be her father. A black Mercedes waited at the curb. The driver opened the door. Zara slid into leather seats that felt like clouds, into warmth that felt like a dream, into a life she couldn't begin to imagine. As the car pulled away, she watched her childhood disappear in the rearview mirror. She should have felt relief. She should have felt hope. Instead, she felt the cigarette burn on her neck start to throb, because somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered, "What if he's lying? What if this is worse? What if you just traded one monster for another?" The Mercedes turned onto the freeway, heading toward the glittering skyline of downtown Detroit. Behind them, in the house on 7 Mile Road, Agnes Washington picked up her phone with shaking hands. She dialed a number she hadn't called in 16 years. When the man answered, Agnes's voice was barely a whisper. He found her. Choi Min-jun found Jiwa's daughter. There was a long pause. Then a voice cold as winter responded. Kill them both. Agnes hung up. She walked to the window and watched the taillights of the Mercedes disappear into the night. And for the first time in 16 years, Agnes Washington started to cry. Not because she'd lost Zara, but because she knew exactly what was coming next. And she knew there was nothing, absolutely nothing, she could do to stop it. The penthouse overlooked downtown Detroit like a throne overlooking a kingdom. Zara stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, 40 stories above the streets she'd walked her entire life, and felt like she was standing on another planet. The city lights sparkled below like fallen stars. The Ambassador Bridge glowed in the distance, connecting Detroit to Canada, connecting this world to another world, connecting the girl she was to whoever she was supposed to become. You should eat something, Min-jun said behind her. Zara turned. He'd changed out of the burgundy suit into dark slacks and a black shirt that made his shoulders look even broader. The phoenix tattoo on his neck was fully visible now, wings spreading up toward his jaw, flames licking down toward his collarbone. It was beautiful and terrifying and exactly what she'd expect from a man who walked into hell and came back wearing expensive cologne. He gestured to the dining table where a spread of food waited, Korean dishes she didn't recognize. American food she couldn't afford. Enough to feed 10 people. I don't know what you like, Min-jun admitted, and for the first time since she'd met him he looked uncertain, vulnerable. So I ordered everything. Zara's stomach growled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a full meal. Yesterday? 3 days ago? Time blurred when you were busy surviving. She sat at the table. Min-jun sat across from her, not eating, just watching her with those careful eyes. Zara picked up a fork. Put it down. Picked up chopsticks. Put them down. Her hands were shaking too badly to hold anything. I don't understand, she whispered. Any of this. You say Jiwa was your wife. You say I'm your daughter. But I don't remember you. I don't remember anything before Agnes except. She stopped. The memories were fragmented. A woman singing. Gentle hands braiding her hair. The smell of jasmine. Then nothing. Then Agnes and the beatings and the endless gray of survival. Min-jun leaned forward. What do you remember? A woman, Zara said slowly. She had kind eyes. She used to sing to me in Korean. I didn't understand the words, but they sounded like safety, like love, like everything Agnes wasn't. That was Jiwa, Min-jun said, his voice breaking slightly. Your mother. My wife. The most beautiful soul I've ever known. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, then slid it across the table to Zara. The screen showed a young couple. Min-jun looked different. Younger, softer around the edges, smiling like he still believed the world could be good. And next to him stood the woman from the photograph. Yeha dvoitavea. She was laughing, her head thrown back, her hand resting on her very pregnant belly. Seoul, South Korea, Min-jun said. 23 years ago. 6 months before you were born. We were happy. Stupidly, naively happy. He swiped to the next photo. Jiwa in a hospital bed, exhausted and glowing, holding a tiny baby with a tuft of dark hair. Min-jun sat beside her, staring at the infant like she'd hung the moon. That's you, he whispered. 3 hours old. You screamed for the first hour, then fell asleep on Jiwa's chest, and didn't wake up for 6 hours straight. The nurses thought something was wrong. But Jiwa knew. She said you were just peaceful. She said you knew you were safe. Zara stared at the photo. That baby was her. That happiness was hers. That safety was hers. And then it was stolen. What happened? She asked. Min-jun's face hardened. I made enemies. Powerful ones. I was young and arrogant and thought I was untouchable. I ran operations for the Choi Syndicate, import, export, territory management. I was good at it. Too good. I stepped on toes. Made rivals. Threatened the wrong people. He swiped to another photo. This one showed a group of men in suits, serious faces, standing in front of a warehouse. Min-jun was in the center, younger but radiating the same dangerous authority. One of those rivals was a man named Nikolai Volkov, Minjun continued. Russian Mafia. Brutal. Sadistic. He wanted my territory. I refused. So he decided to take something more valuable. Zara's blood ran cold. He went after Jiwa. Minjun nodded. He sent men to our home in Seoul. Jiwa was alone with you. She heard them breaking down the door. She grabbed you, ran out the back and called her sister, Agnes, who was living in Detroit at the time. Agnes helped her? Zara couldn't believe it. At first, Minjun said bitterly, Jiwa flew to Detroit with you that same night. She was terrified, but she thought she could hide long enough for me to handle Volkov. She thought Agnes would protect you both. She was wrong. He stood up, walked to the window, his hands clenched into fists. I handled Volkov. It took me 3 months, but I dismantled his organization, scattered his men, and put him in a position where he couldn't touch my family without starting a war he'd lose. I called Jiwa. I told her it was safe to come home. She said she'd be on the next flight. His voice dropped to a whisper. She never made it to the airport. Zara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Volkov found her. His last act of revenge, Minjun confirmed. 2 bullets. Execution style. In an alley 3 blocks from Agnes's house. You were with her. You were 6 years old. You watched your mother die. Zara's breath caught. Somewhere in the darkest corners of her memory, she heard a sound. Gunshots. Screaming. A woman falling. Warm blood on her hands. She'd buried that memory so deep she'd convinced herself it was a nightmare. I flew to Detroit the second I heard, Minjun said. But when I got to Agnes's house, you were gone. Agnes said child services had taken you. Said there was an investigation. Said I couldn't see you until it was resolved. I believed her. I was drowning in grief and guilt, and I believed her lies. He turned to face Zara, and the anguish on his face was unbearable. By the time I realized she was lying, you'd vanished. No records. No foster system placement. No trail. Agnes had hidden you so completely it was like you'd never existed. I spent 16 years searching. Hired investigators. Paid off officials. Followed every dead end. And today, 3 hours ago, one of my men saw you at Holloway's corner store buying cigarettes for Agnes. He crossed the room, knelt in front of Zara's chair, and took her trembling hands in his. I failed you, he said, his voice raw. I failed your mother. I failed to protect you both. And you paid the price for my failures. You suffered for 16 years because I wasn't smart enough, wasn't fast enough, wasn't strong enough to find you. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to make that up to you. Zara looked down at their joined hands. His were scarred, calloused, marked by violence. Hers were small, thin, marked by cigarette burns and old rope marks from the times Agnes had tied her in the closet. Why did Agnes hide me? Zara asked. If she was Jiwa's sister, why didn't she just let you take me home? Money. Jiwa had a life insurance policy. Survivor benefits. If you were officially orphaned with no father on record, Agnes became your legal guardian. She got the payouts. All of them. $50,000 initially, then $5,000 every month for 18 years. Nearly $1 million total. Zara's stomach turned. She tortured me for drug money. She tortured you for drug money that was meant to take care of you, Minjun corrected, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. Every dollar she spent on pills was a dollar stolen from your future. Every beating she gave you was her way of punishing you for being worth more dead than alive to her. Zara pulled her hands free, wrapped her arms around herself. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know you're not just, I don't know, using me for something? How do I know I'm really your daughter? It was a fair question. A necessary question. And Minjun didn't look offended. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. This is a DNA test. I had it run 3 days ago when my man sent me your photo from the store. The lab compared your DNA, taken from a cigarette but you'd thrown away, to mine. He handed her the paper. Zara unfolded it with shaking hands. The results were clear. Clinical. Undeniable. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. You're my daughter, Minjun said softly. Chu Yijing. That's the name Jiwa gave you. It means precious truth. She said you were the most honest, beautiful thing she'd ever created. Cho Yejin. The name felt foreign and familiar at the same time. Like a coat that didn't quite fit but was tailored for her anyway. I don't feel precious, Zara whispered. I feel broken. Minjun stood, and before she could protest, he pulled her into his arms. It was the first hug she'd received in 16 years. The first embrace that didn't come with conditions or pain or expectations. She stiffened at first, waiting for the trap. But his arms just held her. Steady. Safe. Real. And Zara broke. She sobbed into his chest, years of pain pouring out of her in waves that shook her entire body. She cried for the mother she'd watched die. She cried for the childhood Agnes had stolen. She cried for the girl she could have been if someone had saved her sooner. Minjun held her through all of it, one hand cradling the back of her head, murmuring words in Korean she didn't understand but felt in her bones. When she finally stopped crying, when the tears dried up and left her feeling hollow and exhausted, she pulled back and looked up at him. What happens now? She asked. Minun's expression hardened. Now we prepare for war. Because the second Agnes made that phone call tonight, she signed both our death warrants. Volkov's people will come for us. And when they do, I need you to be ready. Ready for what? To fight, Minjun said. To survive. To become the woman your mother wanted you to be. He walked to a panel on the wall, pressed his palm against it. The panel slid open, revealing a hidden room. Inside was an arsenal. Guns. Knives. Body armor. Everything needed for a small war. Starting tomorrow, Minjun said, I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself. How to fight. How to kill if necessary. Because I won't lose you again, Yejin. Not to Volkov. Not to anyone. And if they want to take you from me, they'll have to go through both of us. Zara stared at the weapons. 24 hours ago, her biggest concern was whether Agnes would use the belt or the extension cord. Now she was staring at assault rifles and learning her mother's killer wanted her dead too. I'm scared, she admitted. Good, Minjun said. Fear keeps you sharp. But don't let it paralyze you. Your mother was terrified when she ran from Seoul. But she ran anyway. She fought anyway. She protected you with everything she had until her last breath. He turned to face her. You have her strength, Yejin. I see it in your eyes. You survived Agnes for 22 years. You survived hell. Now I'm going to teach you how to burn it down. Zara looked at the weapons. Lin Mignon. Then at the DNA test still clutched in her hand. She thought about Agnes's last words. I'm sorry. She thought about Jiwa dying in an alley. She thought about 16 years of stolen life, stolen safety, stolen love. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and the pain and the exhaustion, something else stirred. Rage. Teach me, Zara said. Mignon smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen on his face, and it transformed him from terrifying to almost gentle. That's my daughter, he said. Outside the penthouse windows, Detroit slept. But across the city, in a warehouse near the river, a phone call was being made. A gravelly voice answered. Talk to me. Choi Minjun has the girl. Confirmed visual. Where? His penthouse. Downtown. Guardian building. There was a pause. Then, assemble the team. I want them both dead by sunrise. Copy that. The line went dead. And in the warehouse shadows, men began loading weapons. The war Minjun had promised was coming. And it was coming faster than either of them knew. The punch came out of nowhere. Zara hit the training mat hard, her ears ringing, her jaw throbbing where Minjun's padded glove had connected. She tasted blood. Again. Get up, Minjun said. It wasn't cruel. It was clinical. The same tone he'd used for the past 6 hours as he'd systematically taught her how to protect herself, how to strike, how to move like violence instead of running from it. Zara spat blood onto the mat and pushed herself upright. Her entire body screamed in protest. 3 days of training had left her covered in bruises that made Agnes's beatings look gentle by comparison. But these bruises were different. These bruises had purpose. Hands up, Minjun instructed. Protect your face. When your opponent swings, don't close your eyes. Watch the shoulder. It telegraphs the punch before the fist moves. They were in the sub-basement of the Guardian building, in a private gym that looked like it belonged in a military training facility. Punching bags hung from reinforced chains. Weight racks lined the walls. A weapons cage stood in the corner, locked but visible. Minjun had woken her at dawn with a simple statement. Your first lesson starts now. That was 3 days ago. She hadn't seen sunlight since. Again, Minjun said, raising his gloves. Zara watched his shoulder. Saw the muscle tense. Saw the movement start. She ducked left, his punch whistling past her ear, and drove her own fist into his ribs. The impact sent a shock up her arm. It was like hitting a brick wall wrapped in leather. Put Minjun kontil. Actually grunted. Good, he said, sounding almost proud. You're learning. Zara allowed herself a small smile. Then Minjun's leg swept her feet out from under her, and she crashed onto the mat again. Never celebrate before the fight is over, he said, extending his hand to help her up. Pride makes you sloppy. Sloppiness gets you killed. Zara took his hand, let him pull her upright. How many times have you had to fight for your life? Minjun considered the question. I stopped counting at 30. That was 10 years ago. And you won every time? I'm still here, aren't I? He unwrapped the training gloves, tossed them aside. But winning doesn't mean you walk away unscathed. Every fight costs something. The trick is making sure you can afford the price. He walked to a mini fridge, pulled out 2 bottles of water, tossed one to Zara. She caught it. Her reflexes were getting better, and drank deeply. Why are you really doing this? Zara asked. You could have just hired bodyguards. Kept me locked in that penthouse. Why teach me to fight? Minjun leaned against the wall, studying her with those sharp fox eyes. Because bodyguards can be bought. Locks can be picked. The only person you can truly rely on in this world is yourself. I won't always be there to protect you, so I'm making sure you can protect yourself. He pushed off the wall, walked to the weapons cage, and unlocked it with a fingerprint scanner. Inside were handguns of various calibers, combat knives, tactical equipment, and something that made Zara's breath catch. A photograph taped to the inside of the cage door. It showed a younger Jiwa, maybe 19 or 20, at a shooting range. She wore protective ear covers and safety glasses, and she was smiling as she held a pistol with comfortable familiarity. Your mother was a better shot than me, Minjun said softly. I taught her how to fight because I knew my world was dangerous. I wanted her to be able to protect herself and you if something happened to me. But I never imagined. He stopped, his jaw tight. You never imagined you'd be the reason she needed protecting, Zara finished. Minjun flinched like she'd slapped him. No, I didn't. Zara walked over to the cage, staring at the photo of Jiwa. Her mother. A stranger, and yet someone she felt connected to in ways that transcended memory. Tell me about her, Zara said. Not just how she died. Tell me who she was. Minjunes expressionsoffend. Jiwa was a nurse. She volunteered at free clinics in Seoul's poorest neighborhoods. She'd come home exhausted, covered in other people's blood. And she'd still find energy to cook dinner and ask me about my day. She was kind, but not weak. Gentle, but not naive. She knew exactly what I was, what I did, and she loved me anyway. He touched the photo with careful fingers. She used to sing to you. Every night. Traditional Korean lullabies her grandmother taught her. You'd fight sleep just to hear her voice longer. And when you finally passed out, she'd keep singing anyway. She said music was how she prayed for your protection. Zara felt tears threatening again. She blinked them back. Did her prayers work? You're alive, Minjun said. So yes, they worked. He pulled a Glock 19 from the rack, checked the chamber, and handed it to Zara. Have you ever held a gun before? Zara shook her head. Then it's time you learned. For the next 2 hours, Minjun taught her the basics. Grip, stance, sight alignment, trigger control. He was patient, correcting her form without judgment, praising improvement without excessive emotion. By the end of the session, Zara could hit a target consistently at 15 feet. Not perfect, not expert level, but enough. That'll do for now, Minjun said. Tomorrow we work on close quarters combat. If someone gets past your gun, you need to know how to use a knife. Zara set the Glock down carefully. When do you think they'll come? Volkov's people. They're already here, Minjun said grimly. Zara's head snapped up. What? Minjun walked to a computer terminal mounted on the wall, typed in a password. Multiple screens flickered to life, showing security camera feeds from around the building. I have surveillance on every entrance, every floor, every alley within a 3-block radius, Minjun explained. 2 days ago, I spotted them. Russian contractors. 6 men. They've been running reconnaissance, mapping our patterns, looking for weaknesses. He zoomed in on one camera feed. It showed 2 men in casual clothes sitting in a coffee shop across the street, but their eyes were focused on the Guardian building entrance. Why haven't they attacked yet? Zara asked, fear creeping up her spine. Because they're smart, Minjun said. This building has security, cameras, witnesses. They're waiting for us to make a mistake, to leave the building, to give them an opening. So we're trapped. We're fortified, Minjun corrected. There's a difference. But yes, we can't stay here forever. Eventually, we'll need to go on the offensive. He pulled up another screen. This one showed a grainy photo of a man in his 50s, graying hair, cold eyes, a scar running from his temple to his jaw. Nikolai Volkov, Minjun said. The man who ordered your mother's death. He's been operating out of Chicago for the past decade, running weapons and trafficking operations throughout the Midwest. He's brutal, efficient, and very, very patient. Why does he want me dead? Zara asked. I'm nobody. I'm not a threat to him. You're my daughter, Minjun said. That makes you leverage. If he can't kill you, he'll try to take you. Use you to control me. Force me to give up territory, operations, resources. And if he does take you, he'll make you suffer before he kills you, just to punish me for what I did to his organization 16 years ago. The casual way he said it, make you suffer, sent ice through Zara's veins. So what do we do? She asked. Minjun smiled, and it was the predator's smile again. The one that said he was 3 steps ahead and enjoying the game. We give him what he wants, Minjun said. We give him a target. We draw him out. And then we end this once and for all. Before Zara could ask what that meant, an alarm blared through the gym. Minjun moved instantly, pulling a handgun from his waistband, his entire posture shifting from teacher to warrior. What is that? Zara asked, her heart hammering. Minjun said. Someone just disabled the security system on the west stairwell. He tossed Zara the Glock she'd been training with. Load it. Safety off. Stay behind me. If someone comes through that door who isn't me, you shoot them. Center mass. Don't hesitate. Don't think. Just shoot. Zara's hands shook as she loaded the magazine, chambered around, flicked off the safety. The gun felt impossibly heavy. Minjun moved to the gym entrance, his gun raised, his body coiled like a spring ready to snap. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And in the sudden silence, Zara heard footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming down the stairs. Coming for them. Stay quiet, Minjun whispered. Control your breathing. When it starts, don't freeze. Move. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. Then the door exploded inward. 3 men rushed in tactical gear, submachine guns, night vision goggles. Professional. Military trained. Minjun dropped the first one with 2 shots before he'd cleared the doorway. The second man swung his weapon toward Minjun, but Minjun was already moving, diving behind a weight rack, returning fire. The third man spotted Zara. He swung his gun toward her. Time slowed down. Zara saw his finger tightening on the trigger, saw the barrel aimed at her chest, saw death coming, and something inside her, some part of her that had survived Agnes, survived abandonment, survived 22 years of hell, refused to die. She raised the Glock, aimed center mass like Minjun taught her, and pulled the trigger. The recoil jolted her arms. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The man stumbled backward, a red stain spreading across his vest. He went down hard. Zara stared at him. She'd just shot someone. Maybe killed someone. She should have felt horror, guilt, something. Instead, she felt nothing. Reload. Minjun shouted. Zara's training kicked in. She ejected the magazine, fumbling slightly, slapped in a fresh one, chambered around. The second man tried to flank Minjun. Zara didn't think. She fired. 3 shots. 2 hit. The man went down screaming. Minjun finished him with a headshot, then moved to the door, checking for more hostiles. Clear, he said after a moment. The gym fell silent except for the ringing in Zara's ears, and the ragged sound of her own breathing. 3 men lay dead, or dying on the mat. Minjun walked back to Zara, gently took the gun from her shaking hands. You did good, he said quietly. You stayed calm. You protected yourself. That's all that matters. I killed someone, Zara whispered. You survived. Minjun corrected. He would have killed you without a second thought. This isn't murder, Eugene. This is war. And in war, hesitation gets you buried. He cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. You are stronger than you know, he said. Stronger than Agnes. Stronger than your fear. Stronger than anyone who's ever tried to break you. And I am so damn proud to be your father. Zara felt something crack open in her chest. Not breaking. Blooming. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She was a survivor. And survivors didn't run. They fought back. What do we do now? She asked, her voice steadier. Minjun smiled grimly. Now we send Volkov a message he can't ignore. He pulled out his phone, took a photo of the 3 dead men, and sent it to a contact labeled simply, problem. 30 seconds later his phone rang. Minjun answered on speaker. You killed my men. The voice was heavily accented, Russian, cold as Siberian wind. Nikolai, Minjun said pleasantly. I was wondering when you'd call. You can't hide from me, Choi. I will find you. I will find her. And I will make you watch while I... no. Minjun interrupted. You won't. Because I'm done hiding. Tomorrow night. Warehouse District. Pier 17. Just you and me. We end this. No more soldiers. No more proxies. You want revenge for what I did to your operation? Come take it yourself. Silence on the line. Then, you're bluffing. Try me, Minjun said. Show up, or I'll assume you're a coward and I'll start dismantling your Chicago operation piece by piece. Your choice. He hung up. Zara stared at him. Are you insane? He'll bring an army. I'm counting on it, Minjun said. Because while he's focused on me, you're going to be somewhere he doesn't expect. Somewhere safe. With people who owe me favors. I'm not leaving you, Zara said immediately. Yes, Minjun said firmly. You are. Because this isn't just about revenge, Eugene. This is about making sure you have a future. And I can't give you that future if I'm worried about protecting you in the middle of a war zone. He gripped her shoulders. Trust me. One more day. Let me handle Volkov. And then, if I survive, we can finally live without looking over our shoulders. If you survive? Zara's voice cracked. Minjun smiled sadly. I've made peace with death a long time ago. But I haven't made peace with failing you again. So I won't. I promise. He pulled her into a hug, and Zara held on tight, wondering if this was the last time she'd feel her father's arms around her. Because tomorrow night, one way or another, everything would change. The war was coming, and blood would be the price of freedom. The safe house was in Dearborn, 20 minutes outside Detroit's downtown core, nestled in a neighborhood where houses sat close together and neighbors minded their own business. Minjun had driven Zara there himself just before dawn, his Mercedes gliding through empty streets while the city still slept. He'd barely spoken during the drive, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the steering wheel like he was holding on to something he was about to lose. When they'd pulled up to a modest 2-story brick house with a neat lawn and curtained windows, a woman had been waiting on the porch. She was Korean, maybe 50, with kind eyes and silver threaded through her black hair. She wore a simple sweater and jeans. And when she saw Minjun, her expression had softened into something that looked like maternal concern. Minjun, ah, she'd said, pulling him into a hug that he'd accepted with visible reluctance. It's been too long. None, Minjun had responded quietly. Thank you for this. The woman, whose name was Hannah Park, had turned to Zara with the same warm expression. You must be Eugene, Hannah had said. Come inside. You're safe here. That had been 6 hours ago. Now Zara sat at Hannah's kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea that had long since gone cold, watching the clock tick toward evening, and trying not to think about what Minjun was walking into. Pier 17. The Warehouse District. A showdown with a man who'd spent 16 years waiting for revenge. He'll be fine, Hannah said, reading Zara's thoughts. She sat across from her, folding laundry with practiced efficiency. Your father is many things, but careless isn't one of them. You've known him a long time? Zara asked. 20 years, Hannah confirmed. I met him when he first came to Detroit, looking for Jiwa. I helped him navigate the Korean community here, made introductions, translated when needed. He's a good man, Eugene. Dangerous, yes, but good. Zara wrapped her hands around the cold mug. What was Jiwa like? Everyone tells me she was kind, but that's all I get. I need more than that. Hannah's expression softened. Jiwa was my cousin. We grew up together in Seoul. She was the girl who brought home stray cats, who shared her lunch with homeless people, who believed everyone deserved a second chance. She paused, her eyes distant with memory. When she fell in love with Minjun, I thought she was crazy. He was a gangster, a criminal, everything our family taught us to avoid. But Jiwa saw something in him that the rest of us couldn't. She saw the man he could become if someone believed in him. Did he become that man? Zara asked. Hannah considered this. He tried. For her, he tried to be better. He reduced the violence in his operations, refused human trafficking jobs, set boundaries that made his bosses angry. But you can't wash blood off your hands with good intentions, Eugene. The life catches up to you eventually. Is that what happened to Jiwa? The life caught up? Yes, Hannah said sadly. And now it's catching up to Minjun. But maybe this time he can outrun it. For you. A phone rang. Not Zara's. Not Hannah's. A burner phone that Minjun had left on the kitchen counter with strict instructions. If this rings, answer it. No matter what. Zara grabbed the phone, her heart hammering. Hello. Yejin. Minjun's voice sounded strained. Listen carefully. The meet with Volkov is happening in 2 hours. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't leave Hannah's house for any reason. Don't answer the door unless you hear my voice. Do you understand? Yes, but I love you, Minjun said abruptly. I need you to know that. In case I don't get the chance to say it later. You are the best thing I've ever had the privilege of protecting. And I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. Dad. The word slipped out before Zara could stop it. It was the first time she'd called him that. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. When Minjun spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that. The line went dead. Zara stared at the phone, fear clawing at her chest. He's saying goodbye, she whispered. Hannah stood up, walked over, and placed a gentle hand on Zara's shoulder. He's being cautious. That's all. Your father has survived worse than Nikolai Volkov. He'll come back. But Zara heard the doubt in Hannah's voice. They sat in tense silence as the clock crawled toward evening. 7 o'clock. 7:30. 8. At 8:15, headlights swept across the front windows. Hannah tensed. That's not his car. Zara peered through the curtains. A black SUV sat idling at the curb. The driver's side door opened. A woman stepped out. Agnes Washington. Zara's blood turned to ice. What is she doing here? I don't know, Hannah said, already moving toward a drawer where Zara knew she kept a gun. But she shouldn't know about this location. No one should except Minjun and me. Agnes walked up to the front door and knocked. 3 gentle raps. Don't answer it, Hannah hissed. But Agnes's voice called through the door. Zara, baby, please. I need to talk to you. I need to explain. I'm so sorry for everything. Please give me 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Zara felt her resolve waver. Despite everything, despite the beatings and the cruelty and the sale to Minjun, some small part of her still wanted to believe Agnes could be redeemed. Don't, Hannah warned. Whatever she's selling, it's poison. Agnes knocked again. They're going to kill him, Zara. They're going to kill Minjun. I heard them planning it. Volkov's men. They're setting a trap at Pier 17. Minjun doesn't know. But I can help. I can tell you where they are, how many men, everything. But you have to let me in. Zara looked at Hannah. What if she's telling the truth? And what if she's bait? Hannah countered. What if Volkov sent her here to flush you out? Then we're damned either way, Zara said. Because if Minjun walks into a trap and dies, It won't matter that I stayed safe. She walked to the door before Hannah could stop her. Zara, don't. Zara unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. Agnes stood on the porch, looking smaller than Zara remembered. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands shaking. She looked genuinely distraught. Thank you, Agnes breathed. Thank you for listening. She stepped inside. Hannah kept her hand in the drawer, on the gun, watching Agnes with undisguised suspicion. Talk fast, Zara said coldly. You've got 5 minutes. Agnes nodded rapidly. Volkov didn't just send men to the warehouse. He sent 12. They've got heavy weapons, sniper positions, explosives. Minjun thinks he's walking into a negotiation. He's walking into an execution. How do you know this? Zara demanded. Agnes's eyes dropped. Because I told them where you were. The safe house. This address. I gave it to Volkov's people 2 hours ago. The world tilted. Hannah pulled the gun from the drawer, aimed it at Agnes. You bitch. Agnes raised her hands. I know. But listen, they paid me $20,000 to give up the location. But after they left, I realized what I'd done. I realized I'd just sold my niece twice. And I couldn't live with that. So you came to warn us? Zara's voice was hollow. You expect me to believe you suddenly grew a conscience? I expect you to believe I'm terrified, Agnes said, tears streaming down her face. Because Volkov's men aren't just coming for you. They're coming for me too. They said once they had you, I was a loose end. They're going to kill me to cover their tracks. Hannah's gun didn't waver. Good. Saves us the bullet. Wait, Zara said, her mind racing. If they know we're here, why haven't they come yet? Agnes swallowed hard. Because they're waiting until after they kill Minjun. Volkov wants you to know your father is dead before he takes you. He wants you broken. Zara felt fury rise up in her chest, hot and violent. Where is Minjun right now? Exactly where? Pier 17, Warehouse B. He's supposed to meet Volkov at 9 o'clock. Zara checked the time. 8:30. We have to warn him, Zara said. We have to run, Hannah countered. If they're coming here, we need to leave now. I'm not leaving him to die, Zara said fiercely. Hannah looked at her for a long moment, then slowly lowered the gun. Jiwa's daughter, she said with something like pride. Stubborn as hell. She walked to a closet, pulled out a tactical vest and 2 handguns. If we're doing this, we're doing it smart. Vest on. Gun loaded. And Agnes. She turned to the other woman with cold eyes. You're coming with us. If this is a trap, you'll be the first casualty. If it's real, maybe you'll earn a fraction of redemption. Agnes nodded, wiping her tears. I'll do whatever you need. They moved fast. Hannah had a second car, a nondescript Honda, parked in the garage. They piled in, Hannah driving, Zara in the passenger seat checking the Glock Minjun had trained her with, Agnes in the back looking like she might vomit from fear. The warehouse district was a 15-minute drive through industrial decay, abandoned factories, rusted machinery, streets more pothole than pavement. As they approached Pier 17, Hannah killed the headlights and rolled slowly past the entrance. There, she whispered, pointing. 4 SUVs were parked in the shadows. Men with rifles patrolled the perimeter. This wasn't a meeting. It was a kill box. And Minjun's Mercedes was already parked outside Warehouse B. He's inside, Zara breathed. Then we're already too late, Hannah said grimly. Gunfire erupted from inside the warehouse. Automatic weapons. The sound of a war. Zara didn't think. She threw open the car door and ran. Sara, no. Hannah screamed, but Zara was already sprinting toward the warehouse, her gun raised, her heart hammering, every lesson Minjun had taught her flooding through her veins. She burst through a side door. The warehouse was chaos. Muzzle flashes in the dark. Men shouting. The smell of gunpowder and blood. And in the center of it all, Minjun fought like a demon. He'd taken cover behind a concrete pillar, his suit jacket shredded, blood streaming from a wound in his shoulder, but his gun never stopped firing. Dad! Zara screamed. Minjun's head snapped toward her voice. No. Yijing, get out. But it was too late. A spotlight blazed on, blinding her. Men surrounded her instantly, ripping the gun from her hands, forcing her to her knees. And from the shadows, a man walked forward. Gray hair. Cold eyes. The scar from temple to jaw. Nikolai Volkov. Well, he said in heavily accented English. The reunion I've been waiting for. He walked past Zara without looking at her, his attention fixed on Minjun. Drop the gun, Choi. Or my men put 6 bullets in your daughter's head. Minjun's bleu. His eyes met Zara's across the warehouse floor. I'm sorry, he mouthed. Then he dropped his gun. Volkov smiled. Good. Now we can finally settle accounts. He pulled a pistol from his coat and aimed it directly at Minjun's heart. Wait. The voice came from the warehouse entrance. Every head turned. Agnes Washington stood in the doorway, her hands raised, her voice shaking but clear. Before you kill them, you need to know something. Something about Jiwa's death. Volkov's finger remained on the trigger, but his eyes narrowed with curiosity. Speak quickly, woman. My patience is measured in seconds. Agnes took a shaky step forward. 16 years ago, you ordered Jiwa Choi killed. You sent 2 men to execute her in an alley on Livernois Avenue. 2 bullets. Clean hit. Message sent. Ancient history, Volkov said dismissively. But you didn't know why she was in Detroit, Agnes continued, her voice growing stronger. You thought she was just hiding from you. But that wasn't the whole truth. Jiwa came to Detroit because she'd discovered something. Something about Minjun's operations. Something that could have destroyed both of you. Minjun's face went white. Agnes, don't. She found the ledgers, Agnes said, ignoring him. Financial records showing Minjun and Volkov weren't enemies. You were partners. The rivalry? Staged. The territory war? Theater. You were running the biggest money laundering operation in the Pacific Rim, using the appearance of conflict to hide cooperation. Zara's world tilted. What? Agnes looked at her with something like pity. Jiwa discovered the truth. And she was going to expose both men to international authorities. Not because she wanted to hurt Minjun, but because she wanted him out of the life. She thought if his operation was destroyed, he'd have no choice but to disappear with her and start over. Volkov lowered his gun slightly. How do you know this? Because Jiwa told me, Agnes said. The night before she died. She gave me copies of the ledgers. She said if anything happened to her, I should use them to protect Eugene. To make sure neither of you could ever touch the girl. She reached into her coat. Every gun in the warehouse swung toward her. Slowly, Volkov warned. Agnes pulled out a USB drive. 16 years of financial records. Transactions. Shell companies. Bribes. Everything. Jiwa was meticulous. She documented everything. Minjun closed his eyes. Iha dvoita. She loved you, Agnes said to him. But she loved her daughter more. She was willing to destroy everything you'd built if it meant Eugene would grow up with a father who wasn't a criminal. Volkov stared at the USB drive like it was a live grenade. If such evidence existed, why didn't you use it? Why hide for 16 years? Agnes laughed bitterly. Because I was a coward and a junkie. I thought I could use it as insurance, as leverage. But the longer I waited, the deeper I got into the drugs, and the more I forgot what I was supposed to be protecting. I tortured that girl for 16 years when I should have been raising her. I am the worst kind of monster. She looked at Zara, tears streaming down her face. I can't undo what I did to you, but I can do this one thing. I can tell you the truth about your father. Agnes turned back to Minjun. You didn't fail Jiwa. She betrayed you. She was going to send you to prison. And when Volkov found out what she'd discovered, he didn't need your permission to kill her. He did it to protect the operation. To protect both of you. You're lying, Minjun said hoarsely. Am I? Agnes held up the USB drive. Plug this in. Look at the dates. Jiwa met with federal agents 4 days before she died. She was making a deal. Immunity for her and Eugene in exchange for testimony. But Volkov's people were watching. And they killed her before she could talk. Volkov's expression had gone cold and calculating. If this evidence exists, then you just made yourself incredibly valuable to me. Or incredibly dangerous. I'm already dead, Agnes said flatly. I knew that the moment I walked in here. But before I die, I want Zara to know that her father isn't the hero she thinks he is. And Volkov isn't the villain. You're both just criminals who destroyed a good woman because she tried to do the right thing. She tossed the USB drive to Volkov. He caught it with his free hand. Now kill me, Agnes said. I've earned it. Volkov studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to one of his men. Verify it. Now. One of his men pulled out a laptop, plugged in the drive. The seconds stretched like hours. Finally, the man looked up. It's real, sir. Financial records. Federal communications. Everything. Volkov's face went very still. He looked at Minjun. You knew about this? No, Minjun said. I swear to you, Nikolai. I knew Jiwa was scared. I knew she wanted out. But I never knew she went to the feds. I never knew she had this. But you suspected, Volkov pressed. That's why you've been so careful for 16 years. That's why you never fully committed to any operation. You thought maybe somewhere, evidence existed. Minjun said nothing. Volkov laughed. It was a sound without humor. We've been circling each other like paranoid dogs for 16 years. All because of a dead woman's insurance policy. He looked at the USB drive, then at Agnes. You said Jiwa gave this to you to protect her daughter. Yes, Agnes said. Then I have a proposition. Volkov walked over to Zara, still kneeling on the concrete floor, and hauled her to her feet by her arm. The girl for the evidence. All copies. Every backup. I know women like Jiwa. She wouldn't have kept just one copy. Agnes hesitated. She's your niece, Volkov pressed. Jiwa's daughter. You owe her this much. Agnes looked at Zara. For the first time in 22 years, Zara saw genuine emotion in her aunt's eyes. Not hate. Not indifference. But regret so deep it looked like it was consuming her from the inside out. The other copies are in a safety deposit box, Agnes said quietly. First National Bank. Downtown branch. Box 477. The key is taped under the mailbox at my house. Volkov nodded to one of his men. Send someone. Verify it. Then he shoved Zara toward Agnes. Take her. Leave. If the copies are where you say they are, I'll consider our business concluded. If you've lied, I'll hunt you both to the ends of the earth. Agnes caught Zara, steadied her. Come on. We're leaving. No, Zara said, pulling away. Not without him. She looked at Minjun, who was still on his knees, bleeding, surrounded by Volkov's men. Please, Zara begged Volkov. Let him go. You have the evidence. You have what you want. Just let him go. Volkov considered this. Your father and I have unfinished business. Then take it up with him later, Zara said desperately. But right now you have bigger problems. If that evidence goes public, you're finished. Both of you. So maybe instead of killing each other, you should be figuring out how to make sure it stays buried. Volkov studied her with new interest. Jiwa's daughter has her mother's brains. Dangerous combination. He looked at Minjun. You've raised her for what, 3 days? And already she's negotiating like a crime boss. Impressive. She's stronger than both of us, Minjun said quietly. Volkov holstered his gun. Fine. You can both leave. But understand this. The truce we pretended to break 16 years ago? It's real now. You stay out of my territory. I stay out of yours. And if I ever see evidence of Jiwa's investigation surface, I'll assume it came from you. And I'll finish what I started tonight. He turned and walked away, his men following, leaving Minjun bleeding on the warehouse floor. Hannah appeared from the shadows. She'd been hiding there the whole time, gun drawn, waiting for her moment. She helped Minjun to his feet. Can you walk? Hannah asked. I can run if I have to, Minjun said through gritted teeth. They stumbled out of the warehouse into the cold Detroit night. Agnes's Honda was still idling nearby. They piled in, Hannah driving, Minjun in the passenger seat holding his shoulder, Zara and Agnes in the back. No one spoke during the drive. They went to Hannah's house. She had medical supplies, experience stitching up men like Minjun who couldn't go to hospitals. She worked in efficient silence while Minjun drank whiskey straight from the bottle. When it was done, Minjun looked at Agnes, who sat in the corner like a ghost. Why did you really come? He asked. Why risk yourself to save us? Agnes was quiet for a long moment. Because Jiwa visited me in a dream 3 nights ago. She was holding baby Eugene, and she looked at me and said, I trusted you with the most precious thing I had, and you broke her. I woke up knowing I couldn't die without trying to fix at least one thing I'd destroyed. She looked at Zara. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that your mother loved you more than anything. More than Minjun. More than her own life. Everything she did was to protect you. And I failed her. I failed you. And I'm sorry. Zara stared at the woman who'd tortured her for 22 years. The woman who'd just saved her life. I don't forgive you, Zara said quietly. But I understand now. You were broken too. Jiwa's death broke you, and you took it out on me because I reminded you of what you'd lost. That doesn't excuse it, Agnes said. No, Zara agreed. It doesn't. But maybe it explains it. And maybe that's enough for now. Agnes nodded. She stood up, moved toward the door. I'll disappear now. You won't see me again. Where will you go? Zara asked. Agnes smiled sadly. Somewhere far away. Somewhere I can't hurt anyone anymore. She left. The house fell silent except for the ticking of Hannah's wall clock. Minyun luktasa. I'm sorry you had to learn the truth about your mother that way. Was it true? Zara asked. Was she really going to turn you in? Minyun nodded slowly. I think so. I found a burner phone in her things after she died. There were calls to a federal number. I convinced myself they were innocent. That maybe she was reporting a crime she'd witnessed at the hospital. But deep down I knew. Did you love her anyway? I loved her more, Minjun said. Because she was willing to sacrifice everything, including me, to give you a better life. That's real love. That's the kind of love that changes you. He reached out, took Zara's hand. I know I'm not a good man. I've done terrible things. But if you'll let me, I'd like to spend whatever time I have left trying to be the father Jiwa wanted me to be. The kind of man who deserves a daughter like you. Zara looked at their joined hands, his scarred from violence, hers scarred from survival. I don't need you to be perfect, she said. I just need you to be here. Minjun pulled her into a hug, and they stayed like that for a long time. Two broken people holding each other together. 3 months later. Zara stood in the doorway of a small storefront in Midtown Detroit. The sign above the door read, Jiwa's Place Community Wellness Center. Inside, the space was bright and welcoming. Donated furniture, medical supplies, a small library, a kitchen for community meals. Everything Jiwa would have wanted. Minjun had funded it. But Zara ran it. She'd enrolled in nursing school, following her mother's path. She'd started therapy to process the trauma. She changed her name legally to Choi Yijin Washington, keeping both her mother's and Agnes's names, because she'd learned that you could acknowledge your past without being defined by it. Minjun had started the long process of dismantling his criminal operations. It would take years, maybe decades. Some things couldn't be unwound quickly, but he was trying. For Jiwa, for Zara, for the man he wanted to become. Hannah visited weekly, bringing Korean food and stories about Jiwa from when they were young. Agnes sent a postcard from somewhere in Oregon. No return address. Just 3 words. I'm staying sober. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was progress. Zara locked up the center for the night, walked to where Minjun's Mercedes waited at the curb. He'd insisted on driving her home every night. Said it was for safety. But Zara knew it was really because he'd lost 16 years and didn't want to miss another moment. Good day. Minjun asked as she slid into the passenger seat. Good day, Zara confirmed. They drove through Detroit's evening streets, the city lights reflecting off the river, the Ambassador Bridge glowing in the distance, the whole world spreading out before them like a promise of second chances. Your mother would be proud, Minjun said softly. Zara looked at him. This dangerous man who'd fought his way through hell to find her, who was learning to be gentle, who was trying despite everything to be better. I think she already is, Zara said. And somewhere, in the space between memory and hope, Jiwa's lullaby played on. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. It's the hard conversations and the harder forgiveness. It's showing up even when it's easier to run away. Zara learned that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about putting yourself back together when everything tells you to stay shattered. And sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone become who they were meant to be, even if it means losing them in the process. Jiwa lost her life protecting Zara's future. Minjun lost 16 years searching for redemption. And Zara? She lost her childhood, but found her purpose. Not in revenge, not in anger, but in choosing to build something beautiful from the ruins.